am so excited for this next fight right here. So we have Ethan, the Punisher Pedro, coming to us by way of Peak MMA Academy out of the Colorado Springs area, coming to you by way of Auburn, Washington. Now, this is the second time in 3 months that we're seeing Mr. Pedro making his way to the Colorado Combat Club cage. The last time that we saw him back in June, he was competing in a Thai fight to where he was able to showcase that striking skill set. As a guy who is primarily a grappling background, he's just really rounding off that skill set. He's a young kid. I believe he's still only 20 years old. He looks like he's grown even more physically, just in terms of his stature since the last time that we've seen him.
Yeah.
At only 20 years old, Josh, he's still got a few years of actual, real, not just martial arts growth, obviously, but human growth.
Just human growth, yeah, and just maturing in the sport. You know what gets me really excited about this fight, Jordan, is when you ask him why he got into fighting, he just says, I like punching people. I like punching people. He took 3rd and 5th in high school in the state wrestling tournament. And I mean, if you combine those two, a really good wrestler with just the aggression you like to punch people, we're in here, we're up for a good fight.
Absolutely, and especially when you're talking a state in the Pacific Northwest like Washington, we've seen some very high-level wrestlers come out of those ranks. Your likes of Ricky Simone's of the world, the Mike Kessas, those guys out there. There's a lot of great grappling in that region.
There is.
So now that this guy has made his way to Colorado, being a fight mecca out there in the combat world, his game is just continuing to evolve. And like I say, at just a young age, I'm excited to see how he blends now the striking along with his grappling background. Because like I say, the last time that we saw him fight here in the Colorado Combat Club cage, it was only striking. It was only on the feet.
And that's probably good on his coaches to get him in there if he's such a wrestler. Get him in a stand-up where you can't use your wrestling. Get him comfortable standing with another person fighting.
Yes.
But here we also have coming up
Gilbert Ganzer.
Ganzer. Fighting out of Sacramento, California. The gym that he fights out of is First Strike Krav Maga. Coming in with an 0-1 record.
And as far as this matchup goes, folks, this is a catchweight bout. Both fighters came to the agreement that that 185 for the originally booked middleweight bout just wasn't going to happen. So they weighed in at 190 for this fight.
And that's good. You're amateurs. You don't need to cut a bunch of weight, hurt yourself. Amateurs is where you want to learn. You don't want to learn how to cut weight. You want to learn how to fight. So meeting at 190 is perfect for these guys.
Certainly, and you have a kid like Ganzer who he's got some jiu-jitsu under his belt. He's done a few tournaments. He's earned some hardware out there, has a couple of silver medals, has a bronze medal. So we'll see how all of that kind of mixes in.
All right, guys, this fight is an MMA fight. It is a catchweight fight. It is brought to you by Revolve Real Estate. Introducing to you first, fighting out of the Steel City Solar Red Corner. He weighed in at already 190.4 pounds. He is making his MMA debut. He represents Peak MMA. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you Ethan, the Predator, Pedro! His opponent fighting out of the Benjamin back in blue corner. He weighed in at already 190.4 pounds. He comes to us with a record of 0 wins and only 1 defeat. He represents First Strike MMA. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you Mr. Ganzer!
Both these guys looking excited. Ethan Pedro looking calm, cool, and collected.
The kid's exciting, man. He's very strong just within his posture when he stands. This kid is built like an absolute redwood tree.
Like a thick. And here we go with the first round.
And no
Ethan,
glove touch to start.
Take the center with a big belly-to-belly suplex. We have Ethan Pedro on top in half guard.
Now, it'll be interesting to see if the jiu-jitsu comes into play right away for a guy like Gilbert Ganzer, or is he going to try to get himself up?
Gilbert had a good get-up, but he got his neck stuck here.
But, yeah, he's in a bad position right there. You know, the guillotine threat from Ethan Pedro was able to create the sweep to put him right back on top. Thought for a second that he might about to be ready to jump it.
Looked like he was about to jump it, but smart move. Go back to your basics. Get him on his back. Get on top. Start throwing some damaging shots. Good control here we have from Ethan Pedro. Now inside control.
Certainly, and he's got that great side control position and posture right there, folks. You'll see that he is trying to stay heavy on the right hip of Ganzer and posting down on Ganzer's left shoulder.
Go to switch sides.
Or opposite, when you're on the opposite side. You're trying to anchor all of those pivot points.
We go. Pedro's back into half guard. I'd like to see Gilbert create some frames, get some space. You don't want to be on bottom here. It looks like with Pedro on top, he looks very comfortable being there. Throwing down some heavy leather right now. This could be over shortly.
And Ganzer was able to recollect real quick, but he's still not in a very good position. He's got to try to get to a hip, get to the side and recollect. This is not a very good position at all.
Has the head and arm.
Working for the head and arm triangle, yes, sir. Now, Josh, if we can see Ethan Pedro get that left leg over to the side that he is choking on, which he steps over right there, we may see our first submission of the night. We may very well see the first submission.
Oh, he let it go. Definitely felt like he could have finished that, but he probably feels like he wants to continue going and create a little bit more damage here.
This early in the first round, though, too, Josh, if he didn't feel like he had it completely secured, he's probably not wanting to risk burning out his arms and letting all that blood fill up and just fight the rest of the fight, fatigue,
another big
sprinting
shot
for a finish that might not have been there.
Correct.
But right here, with the way that he has, with the tie to the right arm, with the way that he's sitting in that quarter mount, that's a very, very dominant position, Josh.
Very dominant, yeah. Like I said, I'd got to see Gilbert throw in some frames here. Don't want to be giving up your arm and head like that. Here we have another head and arm. We can see him passing, guarding on one side.
The frame, and there we go!
The first finish of the night.
The first submission finish of the night, we should add to that, folks.
Finish.
We have Ethan Pedro picking up a submission victory by way of arm triangle inside of the Colorado Combat Club cage down here in the Pueblo Convention Center.
Very nice work by Ethan Pedro. Came out calm, cool, and collected, and you didn't see him get too excited or overzealous for anything. Like you saw, he got that first head and arm. Wasn't there immediately. Normally you would see a very early amateur just squeeze, squeeze, squeeze.
Right.
But he took his time, worked for it, and got it again and finished the fight.
Josh, you would have to think, or at least this is my conjecture from this vantage point, in that he knew that that opportunity was going to present itself again.
Yes.
That might have been the intel that he gathered when he was there initially and picked up on that tendency.
Yeah.
So he's like, all right, well, I'm just going to soften him up another 20 seconds, and then we'll make our move from there.
Yeah. Jordan, like I said earlier, these amateurs aren't looking like amateurs anymore. They're coming out here really well seasoned.
That's a 20-year-old kid.
That's a 20-year-old child.
Man-child.
Man-child.
All right, so we got to see you in Muay Thai. Now we get to see you in MMA. You're able to do both. You just want to fight, or are we going towards MMA? Are we going towards Muay Thai? You just want to scrap? What are we doing? I'm here to go to MMA. Yeah. I'm here to fight. You know what I mean? Whatever comes my way, I'm going to take it. Shout out to my opponent. Told people to come on this fight. He stepped up and took it, so shout out to him and my fighter. And shout out to people in the man who are ready for this fight. We cannot wait to have you back.